Rodrigo, I think Karan might need the link again because he just Facebook messaged me for it.
Okay, I will send it to him.
Thank you.
All right, cool. Is everyone good with a speech drop for the app? Cool. I will put the app in when everyone is good to start.
For some reason, my school email doesn't let me access it. I'm gonna try putting in my personal one. Okay, I think this is good.
All right, cool. Cool. I guess I'll just put the app in. All right, it's sent. Just tell me when everyone's cool. All right, Galilea, or Rodrigo, Scott, are you good? All right, cool. Jesse, perfect. The United States also implements a single-payer universal healthcare system. Plans regularly study proven to boost economy, conservative estimates account for economy deviations. Company Title 21 consider robust variation of values, reduce fees for hospital fees, are inconsistent. The quality of apply fees, negotiated hospital fees, reduced by about savings $100 billion, reduced admin size, possess 760 ability, burden consolidate ability, reduce 084 ability on payability, C35 ability, paperwork factory to burden, career satisfaction, and wait, my doctors. Okay, I'm just gonna pause it really quickly. Just decentered.
I think it's a good time too. You're a little unclear.
Okay.
So I think you're speaking into your headphones. I don't know if you want to shift them or be louder.
I can just go disconnect them. All right, that's cool.
Wait, say something again, Karan.
Can you all hear me? Okay, cool. Can someone say something so that I know it's coming out of my speakers?
Does this work?
Yeah, all right, perfect. All right, is it cool if I just like restart from the top down? It was like 2 seconds. Okay, cool. The United States also implemented a single-payer universal healthcare system. Our plan is rigorously tested and proven improves the economy. The conservative estimates that account for economic deviations, says Gavani. At all 21, we consider robust variation of values, reduced fees for hospitals, fees charged are inconsistent with the quality of plan fees for negotiated hospital fees reduced by an amounting $700 billion. Reduced amortized represents $768 billion. Burden consolidated ability reduced by $284 billion. Unpaid bill exceed $35 billion. Paperwork to factory burnout bolster courier satisfaction to $269 billion spent on pharma negotiating in line with therapeutic value savings by over $180 billion. Declining scientific investments, suggest market assumptions are imperfect. Expanded utilization of services $773 billion collected and fully funded, replacing their premiums with taxes and 10% generate $436 billion. Cost of managing benefits but relieved with it conservatively do not include $337 billion. Generate a 5% tax on income yield $375 billion. And advantages economic superiority. Ballooning healthcare costs undermine growth that holds out U.S. economic superiority. Locks is slow growth, destroying resilience. As Millhouse and Lever 22. America's healthier state in the U.S. offense economy powers against 70% of the nation total and global for 30% of the Fed spending. Outsized impact on limited investing in areas that help the country to maintain its economic position. Spending to triple no other country comes to challenges in the trade. China could spend $1.7 trillion more. And our education, infrastructure, R&D, overseas development, military, and savings. Excess spending puts the U.S. economy disadvantage, and healthcare is a bubble that will probably lead to immediate recession. The plan is also issue 22. FFA say $2 trillion, sell 28% more workers to solve business, boost innovation, and face to fill the state savings for money economy, stimulating consumer spending, and healthcare spending is rising. Insurance premiums rising. 90% of the food next savings bubble will pop. Citizens push back. Oh yeah, I just got to. Fuck. What the hell? Hello?
Hello?
Yeah.
Okay, I just got a notification Zoom can't detect my speakers or something, so I just did not know what the hell was going on. So
No, we can hear you.
I hear you good.
I can like type in my Mac password and say I have to reset my audio, so I was just so confused. All right, cool. All right. I'm just gonna start in the middle of the cue card. Spending is rising. Insurance premiums are 90% of the next few years. Bubble will pop. Citizens pushed by healthcare companies will accumulate debt. Investors rapidly sell, leading to devastating recession and economic superiority. Resilience solves existential threats, specifically conflict with China. The Citarbin 20 coming area on health, climate, cyber, economic efficiency. U.S. is unprepared for disruptions. The economy that prevent challenges and bouts. But the government should be managing disruptions that can prevent economic disaster. Climate change is sustain jobs done. It's a global food crisis leading to migration, violence, cyber attacks. Grid denied the access to the power. The U.S. is the most powerful economy these days from the pressures. China's economic strength grows. That Chinese is trying to exploit that into the conflict. Resilience minimizes disruption, and that goes nuclear everywhere. The plan solves this. The Edelman's embrace 17. The U.S. is wrecked by crisis, along with research and sort of China, the North Go, and the Middle East. The number of severity, the study heights is increasing gradual erosion. The U.S. primacy, provide competition, uncontested economic dominance, provided the decisive mind in all the regions. I mean, it was not possible to mount the great power challenge the playing field is slanted much less dramatically. The rivals and now have the ability to shift to the preferences of China. Maritime claim challenges enormous and weaken U.S. alliances and have accumulated effects in Europe, Georgia, contributed instability, arms races, security dilemmas, and the conflicts with the SES, Philippines, Ukraine, and Iraq, and linked to great power. Where the U.S. has been the cause of the anti-imperialism globally. It's duty in February 15. The U.S. is the played the entire purely anti-colonial world supported the independent colonies. It's not established in Ohio. European decolonization facility, the breakup of empires, is warning Germany, Japan, and Italy. The Soviet international law inspired anti-colonial movements that is providing infrastructure to the smaller states is sovereign and critiques or shoppers and accounts that don't account for the historical information. No total humiliating violence of poverty and other institutions based on liberal values. Anything else is unstable. Translation was kind of 17 critics reduce liberals and static idea and wants to say that these mentioned liberals the horizons which liberal democracy and the grammar mass politics while the liberal ideas have previously marginalized others being most of self-correction. Anti-liberals are problems like poverty, violence, or immediate making reform urgent the institutional blueprint of liberal democracy is necessary to prevent the authoritarian ethical relativism. We do not need an institutional arrangement that can be seriously built on other principles. Others liberals when this original cost of policy enters violent crisis and the method is maximizes expectable re-indexation on Wednesdays with Casco 14. We have reason for exchange from the high tech to the 10s of 14 issues are reversible in the time will better evidence of how indexation. We did research we know something about people are positive cost of waiting to compare with keeping options open and apocalyptic images challenge power structure to create features to social justice. Early 17 apocalyptic narrative disrupt conservative realism, logic, and plausibility of underrated subtle colonialism, popular notions or equal weights in the prophecy of the end rather than the imagined situation for the spectral space where the attractive produce a resolution justice that the future will be different. And subtle colonialism is the result of a complex network of violence which makes challenging productive the sound go 14. Subtle is obviously challenging institutions and we can do this. We found our differences. Subtle colonialism depends on neoliberal project workers who are the settle rights and rather than the structure focus on who the expense of the how they represent these settlers. The trans historical practices we naturalize the inevitable historical materialism approach shows the condition but also condition white supremacy, heteropatriarchy, capitalism, colonization, and school of indigenous governments. Their heavenly practices that always aren't colonial. The party recognize these relations outside the body, and the changes in our individual participation are connected to broader social, economic, political justice, and lines of affirming decolonization and other struggles to sustain this relations are unsustainable, resist appearing colonial domination, and envisioning existential threats of potential solution with the debate, interrelated factors, subtle colonialism, that speaks 15 subtle closing and attending generation close temporality, which can end all the gone in future making, word of the nightmare future, but the features in the height of people continue the significance of the lie in the future making itself, the capacity to say what's next, just I guess that if tonight for future threatens all life, regardless of the race that address the limits of hide in a settled life, navigate the features that do not end in erasure, that figure temporal horizon relationship remain impossible, the capacity unsettled the settled present, and shall disavow the nation state and hegemonic anti-imperialism, create a pessimism trap that hard ends the debate. That's life telling the pessimism trap the state is unchanging, that it means agency over the organization, shifting state positions, that the integration, decolonization, used together, indigenous actors frame themselves as information, every states into a double bind, and the return the indigenous to governments, inhabit the UN, IEP, don't for structure, this is sort of prescribing narrow view, not even considering that indigenous peoples can be calculated strategic, condemning indigenous peoples to the negotiations of the state. It aims to solve the change, requires optimistic conversion towards better futures, and we're sweeping theories of radical indigenous ontological difference, ignore the nuances of actual struggles to react strategically repurposed central categories. This represents an idea focusing radical ontological difference, lead to reification difference, and ignoring struggles and demands of those men emerge of indigenous and modern rather than insisting on difference to form the division of for everyone to use modern notion rather than rejecting its incarceration to make general conclusion global issues special distraction further away from the concrete real life concrete decolonial structures to argument of relation ontologies harbors the danger making of attention the lack of engagement with particular practice related knowledge tradition and value in the Western economy knowledge is abstract generic applicable beyond a specific context and the plan's hybrid model demedicalizes healthcare. That's Master 15 the holistic care and demedicalizes healthcare relating to how patients the healthcare is helping to better host and remedicalize the life and emotional spiritual life. The healthcare focus and dimension to physical life where many workers of Western traditional medicine offer both the combination isolation. The hybrid model is approach to navigate the ways that the traditional or Western model strips people of freedom to choose consumption of good health practices, good healthcare, and community when solution insufficient to solve widespread material suffering. Forward evidence usurpation of self-reliance accounts to slander the elements of self-help and that rejects the established truly universal single payer healthcare. The regiments can be accomplished by self-help issues, self-help must good political activities and amount of community research and revamp structures for the benefit of the masses and nation building tech universal healthcare one into twilight struggle with for-profit medical corporations.
Cool. Everyone good for CX?
Yeah.
Cool. Unless someone says anything, I'm gonna assume people are good. And we can begin now. First, do you defend Medicare for all as the F?
We defend U.S. single. We just.
I know that that's what your plan text says, but Galvani mentions Medicare for all multiple times during the card. Will you defend Medicare for all as being synonymous with single payer?
No, the Galvani evidence says that the first line of the Galvani evidence is budgetary models for single payer U.S. healthcare. The next part.
If you look at the second part, it says that MFA would yield net savings for the healthcare system.
Yes, obviously the evidence isn't contextualized of using Medicare and sort of MFA and expanding models and
it literally defends Medicare for all, this card. If you're going to say it doesn't, then okay, but
it doesn't, and I don't think me defending Medicare for all ruins any negative ground.
Okay, then we can have that debate. That's fine.
It doesn't resolve any sort of negative offense.
Okay, that's fine. The last time we debated, you said like econ growth was like the most important impact. Is that still like the most important impact of the round?
Well, no.
Like econ growth is how you access your extinction here, correct?
Well, the internal link is a question of trade-offs of spending. The one is he reorientates that trade-offs of spending.
Sure. I guess like how much growth is necessary to stop it?
Yeah, scenario. It's not a question. It's not a normal econ F. It's more like a question of econ superiority.
Yes, but how much of this superiority is necessary to stop extinction?
The plan.
How much is that? Like, is that something that's even quantifiable?
I think sort of quantifying is a bad metric. The second Mulhouse and Levitt evidence does provide quantification of how healthcare right now is 30% of federal spending, 70% of nation's total good, and that leads to sort of trade.
Okay, that's fine. Let's talk about the forward evidence. So it seems like this seems like it makes the claim that like no community based movements are like possible without use of the state. Well, will you concede that like community-based, like you have to, in the world of the AF or any movement, they have to use the state? That's what this card is defending. I just want to make sure that.
Be successful.
To be successful. Okay, let's look at examples. BLM, Black Panther Party, all of those movements, they have to be using the state in order to be successful. I just want to make sure that is what the affirmative stands for.
Evidence is a concept of self-reliance, self-discipline, self-help. The evidence explicitly advocates for a truly universal single-payer healthcare as a resolving those sort of one claims. Obviously, you would.
That like doesn't answer the question at all.
I'm getting the Black Lives Matter, Black Panthers movements specifically onto sort of their aspects or their clarifications of how they deal with self-help, self-righteousness. We would say universal single-payer healthcare is necessary to
and we need to use the state to achieve that, correct?
the only way to have universal single payer healthcare is through the state. I don't think it reifies state power or things like that.
Okay, cool. Hurley's talking about apocalyptic like fiction narratives. How is this related to the AF? Is the AF fiction?
It's not a fiction narrative. The Hurley evidence is quite contextual and like sort of.
It's contextual to policy.
It's contextual to America's sort of and logics of implausibility that extinction scenarios pose. The Weiss evidence is also fantastic in another rep's argument.
Okay, that is not what the evidence is, but that's fine. I will send the doc now, or I guess not send it, put it in file share. It'll be 2 and then case. There now. Oh wait, hang on.
Did you just like?
Yeah, there we go.
Okay.
Correctly.
I'll tell you when I'm good.
Okay, and I'm just gonna record.
All right.
Is everyone else good? And then on case, it should be pretty clear where we're going. Okay, awesome. Everyone's good? Then we can begin now. First off, is TA interpretation. The affirmative must defend single-payer healthcare, not Medicare for all. There are differences. Medicare for all is private insurance companies managed care. Young, the Bernie Sanders advocated a single-payer healthcare system, which is called Medicare for all, but Sanders labors are misleading because Medicare isn't actually single-payer. Medicare allows private insurance companies to manage care in the program, which means the government is not only the only payer of claim. The violation is that the Galvani evidence under the plan text defend Medicare for all. So do all of the other authors in the AF defend Medicare for all. Force them to explain why they're either different or the shell stands. And that benefits the first stable advocacy study letting them defend Medicare for all means that they can defend private insurance if we say it's good or opt out if we say it's bad. They're moving a target stability is key to accessibility without we can meaningfully contest the app because we have no idea what actually defends, so we're shut out of the round sickness slash we can critically contest the plan if the app defends either two contradictory things. You can just opt out of distance returns by saying you don't defend private care. Also, excuse for if we don't know whether you defend single payer Medicare for all means that we can't effectively clash accessibility without debate becomes a dueling oratory and one side can't act as the base of voters' accessibility to part question fairness or education be questioned being able to participate in the debate in the first place drop the debate over excuse the round dropping giving the app destroys debate with nothing can advocate for or against no RVS versus chilling effect RVS encourage debaters to be abused and win on D which destroys the purpose of it to check back abuse against RVS make no sense on just you wouldn't win for reading a 6-minute half expected that your C's you can't win on it use community interrupts a binary can be reasonably key community interrupts make them justify the app drop them if they can't the K. I negate power relations as starting point of ethics and dominate social forces seek to define survival requires subordinating ones of how one in a psychic economy subordination existence in terms of consciousness response to a world of powers constructed subordination is not only forced on established subordination forms the subject one derived to live is what is complicated one is complicatedly dependent through social life the condition of psychic survival depend on a successful induction to a productive language of power to desire the condition of one's subordination required to persist in oneself the foreclosure of desires creates a forbidden attachment that causes pain as it will the service of a really regulating regime every strategy of subjection is ontologically vulnerable to the unpredictability of creative desires as blocked or foreclosed ontology gives as much as it takes. Thus, a role that just promote a liberated ontology means focusing around issues of counter subordination. This requires radical resistance. The state controls the subaltern. They must rupture the dominant culture to be free. How to? Well, everyone is good, not everyone is included equally. Subaltern people must survive in a social world, most one, a deeply attached one, which experiences lethal. One thing one loves are often capable of killing one. Subaltern ethics can practice refusal in such a way that one can't avoid the question of ontology. The problem is our NRDs not to liberate effort from the state, but from the individuation linked to the state. Thus, the role of balance to endure subaltern certainty, which means promoting extreme strategies that to influence social normative way the impacts based on strategy, probability of resisting oppression. The links. The asked use of the U.S. gene single payer care further to colonialist project, Western biomedicine, Rutgers medical knowledge of subaltern. Can't one. Biomed continues to save healthcare and define illegitimate knowledge. Any discussion of healthcare must acknowledge the global dominance of biomed adjusting to European and colonial rules designed to protect the health of settlers. Western biomed achieves dominance, both appropriating as well as evaluating indigenous knowledge. The impacts this destroys subaltern knowledge production. The app perpetuates cycles of violent colonialism. Can too. What counts as knowledge is shaped by Western rationalist paradigm with the destruction is form of knowledge. Other ways of thinking are rejected or altered to fit dominant categories. Postcolonial theorizing person permits to view this dynamic not through Western conceptions of efficacy, but in terms of enslavement and appropriation. Integration into Western medicine involves being reduced to the subaltern can only be heard by oppressor by speaking the language of roleization. Therapeutics can only be known through Western medical practice, and the app doesn't even promote health. Biomed actively worsens it with Turns case. Camp 3. In Africa, colonizers outlawed traditional medicine until the 50s when anthropologists recognized the benefits for social cohesion and felt the healing properties of globalization of biomed did not signal absolute improvements to global health. On the contrary, the divergence between the increasingly wealthy and the desperate poor was concretized. This differences are not simply a reflection of GDP performance and life-saving drugs. Lower incentives for companies to invest in drugs for the poor and migration of health workers from developing economies. Global movement ushered in contradiction around ideas and identity. Thus, the alternative. Reject the FP's or incremental reform in favor of subaltern certainty. We should destroy the existing peasants' domination of Wagner. Given the peasants' objection to the colonial state, resistance could only assume the form of negation and a version of the existing power structure with the world countries turned upside down. The modality of peasant insurgency followed a clear structure property was torn rather than appropriated insurgency mobilized the entire peasant population solidarity in the ranks of subaltern that reflected shared grievances. Cut the next card, go into framing. We'll criticize the usual framework. Utilitarianism is helpful in making decisions in the moment, but is unable to grapple with the histories of violence and how histories influence utilitarian calculus. We can look to consequences, but it is a question of what consequences we care about. Second is that we control the root cause of proximate violence. Only our ethical theory allows for an understanding of why people have a desire to drive to cause extinction. We need to understand these desires and drives before taking action. Third is that probability comes first, and the impact doesn't matter if it's never happened in the first place. And the focus on extinction causes policy failure. Every action has an infinitesimal chance of causing extinction with foreclose any action, which takes up moral uncertainty because we're not morally uncertain that colonialism is bad. The case, starting with the method part. They're missing an internal link between standard and extinction. They haven't justified why extinction is the worst harm to well-being. Many systems reject that. Egypt Buddhists who believe in dying, who believe in denying material pleasure. Their concept of life is merely existence. So they deny the quality of life. Thames, which takes up McCaskill, which only says the extinction is bad because it kills people off. Hurley, it's empirically denied. We've been using a apologetic reasoning for death. We haven't seen the revolutionary future the card promises. Second, this card is literally about fiction writing, not about the left's political rhetoric. It's about people using apocalyptic novels, not in terms of state policy. Stop reading this card. The Snell card about challenging set call. First, non-unique are all challenges. Set call we don't accept it as invaluable. We just say the challenging to use the state itself, not particularly practices like how their second system misrepresents our ontology. We don't say that nothing should happen. We just say the subaltern should radically critique the state response to do nothing pessimism, but that isn't our all. Third, we'll turn the state to subaltern movements by failure by including a form of resilience politics where people need to constantly write up to a state that will crush them and endorse working outside the state to bring it down, not working through the state to create change. The Weiss will skip that evidence, but we'll say that we don't say that they can't talk about extinction. We are just criticizing the way that they frame extinction impacts. We mean we don't link the life and evidence means that they misunderstand the alternative. We're not pessimistic about resistance, just about the state. This card gives isolated examples of the state being good while missing the busier picture of state oppression at the atmosphere. Why is violence against the subaltern still happening every day? The Rosenau evidence misunderstands the app. We don't say that indigenous people are ontologically different from non, but the state is predisposed to subjugate someone we don't link. Since we don't claim a static ontology for any one group, we just criticize the ontological positioning of the state. The forward evidence is this says no movement is legitimate unless it's state incorporated, which means that every movement is discredited in its world. It's violent exclusion because you constantly have to be legitimized by the state. This whole ontology thing because you're always in opposition to the state. Say your voice don't matter and you stand for nothing. There are masters evidence. Holistic care is a link. Attempts to combine Western traditional medicines always privileges non-Western, always privileges Western methods. The Du Bois evidence is a link. It also concludes that the state is the cause of the problem. If states obliterate revolutionaries to make their argument for us, and a reason we shouldn't use the state for revolutionary practices. The advantage, as an overview, the entire position is about economic growth being key to stopping extinction. They have to act as often. They have to win first. The economic growth isn't independently valid. And the second, that extinction is the worst harm. If they win, if I win either claim, they turn case. We'll read that growth doesn't trickle down. It only goes to elites. 4, real report proves that trickle down economics create more wealth and equality. Kaplan, to the 2022 world economy was a huge undertaking. Was a product of 4 years of research to produce an unprecedented data on how wealth is distributed. The world market is a very high level of income inequality and extreme level of wealth inequality. The data serves a complete rulebook of trickle down economic theory, which posits that cutting tax on the rich will trickle down to those below that. Below half just owns the 2% of the wealth. We'll cut that there. The state creates recessions and declines on its own. The state creates the conditions so there'll be more people on top and less, and some who are subaltern, which the app can't resolve. Their Surrattman evidence. The economic superiority creates a securitization state. The state has more justification to oppress the subaltern more, and that economic security will solve, which justifies human rights violations in the name of war. Second is an apology to that. This card is written by people who want to justify things like U.S. hegemony, which is they're making this argument because they're biased, and empirically this is false. Every time the U.S. intervenes, it's to benefit their own self-interest. The Claudio 17 evidence assumes state redeemability, which means that they must win ontology, and if they've won, the state is actually pro this. If they haven't won, that it's pro the subaltern, then they lose. But I can send like a marked doc if that wasn't clear.
Yeah, that would be appreciated.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. New doc is in there.
Okay. Let me just wait. Let me close out of this one.
Can y'all make sure y'all are recording your speeches? Because there's a giant storm happening right now, and my internet might get cut off.
Yeah, I am.
I'll be doing that for the 1 hour and 2 hour. All right, good.
Mm-hmm.
Status of the alt.
Uncondo.
Okay, the link evidence. Why? What does the con evidence is talking about biomedical evidence and
Yeah, that's the positioning of the 1AC. We're criticizing the way
Why?
we present. Yeah, sure. 2 reasons. First, the reading of the 1AC positions healthcare, something universal healthcare, something that everything should want to be achieved. That's ingrained with things like biomedicine. I think that link is pretty clear. The second one,
Wait. You say the link is very clear. Where is the link very clear?
I think that the entire point of the 1AC is to posit that universal healthcare is something that everyone should be achieving towards, something that everybody like healthcare. Yep, once we get it, we stop things like growth, or we like allow things like growth to happen. I think that
Wait, you're saying everyone should have
healthcare is what everybody wants. I think that is the first thing.
Wait, so you need it? Wait, so do
Yeah.
subwestern people not want healthcare?
We would say that within the world. Well, I guess that begs the question of what kind of healthcare the app is talking about.
Where does the 1AC
healthcare?
Where does the 1AC?
Right. So I think it's about the positioning of the 1AC. We will say within like I guess the 2NR that the way that that you have positioned single payer healthcare, you position it as being something that everybody is going to get access to, and that it solves X impact. We say that this sort of logic furthers a colonialist project. I think Kant 2 and Kant 3 are really clear that it's a form of integration policies, i.e., the world that the affirmative is like everybody's going to be able to use it. I think also the links on case, like the links that we read in the message card,
Jesse, where is the internal link?
Ron, like
no, let me ask my question. The
internal
link is like the AF has this positionality that the AF gives everyone universal healthcare and that solves growth. Why does that cause?
Yeah, we say that is bad. That's sure. So the AF is based on the assumption that single payer is going to save the world. We criticize that. That's a logic that we are criticizing.
Where in any of your evidence have you warranted that?
If you're going to say that you're not going to stop, the AF doesn't stop like extinction.
Wait, no, just read me a line.
I don't understand.
No, read me a line from your evidence that says single payer healthcare attempts to solve extinction, attempts to do that are bad.
No, your entire AF says that single payer, but when you implement
I know my AF says that. I'm asking you.
That's what we're criticizing. That's what we're criticizing.
Where does your evidence?
What is confusing?
Where does your evidence say that? Just point me a line in your evidence.
I don't think that it has to. I think we're criticizing biomedicine
their evidence is not
in the world of the app. I don't think the evidence
all the judges should remember this.
Multiple parts in the app justify integration policy or politics, which is what the K is criticizing. I don't understand.
Wait. No. Let's talk about integration policies. Where does the app a form of integration policies?
What is single payer under?
Let me finish. The app just says healthcare is free. Not everyone has to go use that healthcare, but you have free healthcare. Why?
Under Medicare for all, that's like not true. Your Galvani evidence is specifically clear that there is no private insurance in the world of the app. Second,
there's no private insurance. I don't think
everybody has to use it, otherwise there's no healthcare. Yeah, I don't know what else.
No, that doesn't make any sense. I'll start. All right, 354. Let me send it. Wait, actually, is it already saved? Okay, I cannot find this doc. Okay. Okay. It's going to be in the speech drop, same doc name, just at the top. The order will be T, the AF will be the advantage, then the method page quickly, and then the critique. On the method page, just as like signpost, like there will be a lot of like contextual work done on the critique page as well, if that helps you with your flowing.
There's going to be an overview on case, and can you just you're like T case, but where are you starting on case?
The advantage.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Just tell me when both of y'all are good. I mean, not both of y'all, everyone's good. All right. I'm looking for verbal confirmation because I can't see any. Okay.
Yeah.
I
Good.
am not good.
Okay, no problem.
What is the doc called? Did they both have the same name?
Yeah, it's a name, just the one at 415. Sorry if I didn't make that clear.
All right, I'm good now.
All right. I meet the uses studies about Medicare and extending it, but defense single payer. You have a first line of 1C solvency proofs. They just said our evidence is violent, but had no reclining or cards there. Definitely affirmed this. Giovanni 21 budgetary protection for single payer universal healthcare. There's zero neg offense. We do not defend private insurance at all. Read every piece of 1C evidence. It is bad. See extracts are stable advocacy. The app has been disclosed as grapevine. Basic research would tell you this is non-topical. Then every single app would be answers the class standard as well. Plan text in a vacuum only cases for violations. And I think app will be truly unified. Their model flow justifies you recutting 1C impact cards that defend another policy implementation. Saying that's what they want. App defense interpret evidence is the same. Birdie's standards words are misleading, which proves that MF4A is an incorrect buzzword for actual single payer policies, which means that we meet the advantage. The economy is slowing down because of macroeconomic crowded with 30% of federal spending, 70% of consumer spending, preventing investment that secures resilience of the economy, solves nuclear conflict against rogue actors like China, Russia, Iran, and NOCO, apps also by freeing up consumer spending into economy stimulating active sectors, marketing up prices with providers, which drives prices down and increases admin savings. This sort of overview argument, the overview is wrong. We don't defend econ growth, just a question of econ superiority. Cross-ex made that distinction very clear. It's about trade-offs. The Abu Jama card, the card doesn't say anything. The tag is borderline evidence. Ethics, the call upon evidence. We don't make a claim about selling inequality. Extinction outweighs the state creates recessions of its own. Otherwise it would harm U.S. security. They don't have a sort of evidence that they would. The state created poverty, yes, but they solved that the AF economic superiority creates securitization. They have no warranted or link why the econ leads to oppression. The AF is 100% true, which means it's not securitization. The apologizing argument that U.S. hedge is good. That's the impact of the sort of thing, which means extinction outweighs the sort of method page. Extinction outweighs McCaskill. That's a McCaskill evidence. It's a question that even if we have to give the lowest value of life possible, challenge to future generations means that we should care about extinction. The Buddhist argument, they might have their beliefs, but that is a bad argument. Probability comes first. Winning the AF is 100% true. Resolves that we control the root cause of violence. Drives are not specific to describe China lash out to the U.S. You say critique of the usual framework. No, we care about sort of extinction consequences. That's McCaskill evidence, which resolves that this extends to sort of liberalism evidence. That the Caldui evidence. The critiques are straw person accounts that don't account for historical transformations. There's no tolerance for ameliorating violence or poverty. Other institutions based on liberal value. Anything at least an unstable transition where the impact turns the alternative. Yes, we agree that the impact turns the critique, which is what the 1C responds to. We've conceded that the state is not sort of irredeemable. State policies are the only way to resolve inequality and violence, which also proves that the alternative cannot resolve because even if prior passes they have not been good. It's not a constant ontologization of blood, which a constant bad positionality of ontology. The critique proper. The role of the ballot is judge to determine what the post-fail impacts of the AF we get away case. One is fairness, the AF is for the debate, meaning 6 minutes. The 1C fairness outweighs unfairness, or schedule includes ability to disprove the turn of the grade. 2, every argument assumes a violation needs fairness. We can learn by the critique of other rest of fairness outweighs the urgency. 2 is clash compare the theory of real was the only way to good ideas is our epistemology. Our title consequences, extinction outweighs, extend the wise evidence, extinction images rupture the narrative, the stability status quo, entries of domination rather than a human survival, opens the space for radically different visions of the future. They just say it's about natives, but yes, the evidence about sort of any extinction scenarios causing sort of a sort of a settlers to think that they're bad things, and independently. All the responses to the method evidence seem to agree that theory power is the same as stat called. No, the responses they're extremely different. Don't let me go for response to the method cards. Independent reason negate the link on the forward evidence. No, it's not a link. It's a question that attempts at self-care were never able to community to also state crackdown on the Black Panther Party, which proves that sort of the alternative is doomed to failure. Extend the Lemasters 15 card that the plan's hybrid model demedicalizes healthcare. It's giving to him Navajo to people the right to choose whether they want Western medicine or not. Concedes a link to the hybrid models demedicalize healthcare. You just say holistic care is a link. It's not a combination. It's just giving them a choice. No link to biomedicine. We don't care about specific medicines, just healthcare. Read the evidence is very contextual to the concept of traditional medicine, be it appropriate knowledge systems, etc. Nothing about medical insurance is mentioned. It's also about the UK, not the US, which is also about the Turns case. Evidence you should cross-sex was really binding. They have not mentioned a single line about sort of US single payer health and combine the analysis of affirmative with subaltern theory gives a full account of power relations in medicine. Your author agrees. The opportunity post-rated medical sociology by post-colonial theory is twofold. First, to render visible to your colonial power relations that continue to shape health knowledge practice. Second, to reconsider research practice to be globally anticipated compared to drawing to the research of global southern north. The scholars would enable for the examination of relations of power to run through the medical therapeutic sociological practice, facilitate deeper appreciation the way to the medical pluralism of very mass goes, and they remove the chase of NDN patients to choose their method of care, taking away Western healthcare is worse, which impact turns the authors of master 15, providing only master care to know how to impose because of physical health for psychological diagnosis, providing no church care removes not how to pretty receive Western healthcare, offering only traditional Western method, does not allow novel true freedom and just patients do not treat healthcare systems as mutually exclusive. There is no there's no link. We just say that healthcare is free, that not people have to use to force it, which means forced integration is wrong.
Okay, cool. I'm gonna take prep starting now. Karan, can you explain the turn to case, the liberalism stuff under like the transition wars, the state's not irredeemable?
Yeah. The 1NC says like the state is in a place of intelligible ontology. That means it's irredeemable. This liberalism would disagree with that. It says there's progress by the state. Second is all only state policies can resolve violence and poverty, and anything else leads to transition wars.
That makes sense. The order is going to be starting with an overview on the K, then it will be framework on the K page, and then it will be case. Once I get to case, it'll just be that captain card.
I'm gonna need that all over again.
Sure. It'll be the K starting with an overview that you should probably, or I would flow on a different piece of paper. Then it will be the framework. So like util, extinction outweighs, counter roll the ballot, K proper, then the case, and it will just be on Kaplan when I get to case.
I'm sorry. Wait, case is like the advantage or the method?
Yeah, the advantage. I'll be answering the method throughout because I think that was kind of done everywhere. So sorry about that. Let me know when everyone's good. Roger, make sure. Okay. Okay, cool. Everyone's good. Then we can begin now. As an overview, appeals to only post-fiat impacts without engaging our ontology claims is game over. They keep seeing extinction as bad, but they don't justify looking to extinction first. Our theory of power is not set call. They've completely missed the point. Sorry that we debated set call a lot, but this is not set call. It's not about positioning indigenous people specifically. The entire 1AR is a giant link. Literally every argument made is an appeal to physical life versus extinction bad. Our point is that reasoning prioritizes Western biomed over other forms of knowledge. Marginalizing the subaltern and making perms impossible. Our argument is that framing single-payer healthcare and economic growth is key to stopping extinction as a form of integration politics. Every use of single payer is an expansion of Western biomed. Healthcare system to allow for the global dominance of biomed. Healthcare only existed as a result of political power. Indigenous people are told that their method doesn't work. Is imagined. It results in labeling people as unhealthy. There cannot be subaltern knowledge production in the app because it's subject to biopolitical power. Can't 3 should frame your ballot. Global health doesn't get better in the world of single payer healthcare. The state defense running the healthcare to the ground. If I win Can't 3, I win a case term, regardless of winning the theory of power or even the framework. Until the 1950s, state provided care created the dichotomy between the rich and the poor, which means people got sicker in the world of the app, which means at minimum they can't access their impacts because there's all premised around healthcare, which or second, it's a turn to case. But we will win framework now. Extend the role of the judge, promote a liberated ontology, which means focusing around on issues of counter subordination. Others try to constantly tell us what desires are acceptable and which aren't. So the only way to break free of that is to explain our own impossible desires. Extend the role of the ballot to endorse subaltern insurgencies, which means moving away from strategies that demand obedience in favor of authentic freedom. It justifies the role of the ballot and precludes util because it's based on being alive as being the primary desire. The subaltern are systemically repressed and excluded from the ethical realm, so they need freedom to have any desires to articulate. It controls the link to death first. A biopolitical order is extremely violent and causes psychological pain now, so it outweighs on proximity. Biopolitics is the biggest absence of pleasure because no agency exists in the world, which takes out the value to life argument because life isn't worth preserving absent, meaning the framework, they say that they let them weigh case, but we let them weigh case, they just didn't do it. They have to win that their conceptions of life and death should confirm. So that's what we challenge. There's nothing arbitrary about the framework is. There's also no external impact of why we care about framework or why we care about clash, but we'll turn it anyway. We improve the quality of clash by forcing debaters to understand the nuance behind their arguments and forcing them to explain why their representations are good, which is not good. In real life, you'd have to do that too. The extinction outweighs argument, they can see the ontological or warrants and how. They can't say life is a prerequisite to value, and the how shows how life constantly involves subjugation for the subaltern. In some cases, being alive is the opposite of meeting desire. So their generic extinction slaves don't resolve our framework. They can see the root cause argument. We explain through the role about why desires to exclude exist. Their forms based on being able to unable to reconcile a world where the biopolitical order doesn't exist, which means we explain why people want to cause extinction to begin with. You say we don't explain it in terms of transition wars or in terms of Russia, China, and the U.S., but we explain how people act, and you can see this argument, which means we're able to explain why extinction drives come. But we'll explain the links here. They're really clear. There are 4 links to the app. First is that the positioning of the USFG's single payer is a way of stopping global extinction. Second is that the method guards that require the use of the state. Third is that the app's expansion of state-controlled healthcare, which automatically expands Western notions of health. 4 is that the act's extinction framing, which is premised on the westernized idea that extinction is the worst possible impact. Force them to answer back all 4 of these, otherwise we'll still win the K as a disad. You can extend Cant 1 here that the absence use of the USFG and single pair furthers a colonialist project. Indigenous people who form groups like the Indian Health Service are never recognized by the state, and their desires are seen as impossible. The point is that extensions of state power like the app are a form of Western biomedical extension. They say there's no link to biomed, but they miss the links there. Any use of state-controlled care is biomedical. They say that there's no movement is legitimate until it's state incorporated, and they extend forward here, but that means that every single movement who doesn't use the state would be discredited, which just leads to things like cruel optimism, but also means that no movement is ever going to work. Only in the world of the K do we say that this is possible. The transition wardens, it doesn't turn its case. Think about how many times the U.S. has gone to war over hegemony concerns or has conflict with other nations. The probability that simple payer can solve back for this is extremely small. The impacts, extend Cant 2, that this destroys subaltern knowledge projection. The app perpetuates cycles of violent colonialism. Integration politics means subaltern knowledge get pushed to the sidelines or framed by Western discourse, which leads to cyclical policy failures. Yeah, the state can't reconcile while people like indigenous folk are suffering at mass amounts due to diabetes, but it's because they refuse to listen to the subaltern. Off the master to the Navajo patients and integrate care themselves. This has absolutely nothing to do with the K. It's not about state provided care. It's what they defend. If anything, this negates. It means Navajo people themselves can make decisions in the world of the alt. Extend the alt here. We defend subaltern insurgency through examples like peasant rebellions. The subalterns are able to unify. We want subalterns to be able to take over and force a radical restore. We outweigh the app on probability. German pellet wars, the Mau Mau in Africa are all examples of peasant rebellions that function. This alt will fail when we default to systems and defaulting to the state. Off the perm, we're not sec alt. It doesn't apply. You literally can't preserve the state and destroy it at the same time. The alt fails argument is nonsensical. We should endorse the impossible demands that Howe is describing. Even if it's going to fail, it's ideologically better to entertain those desires. So will outweigh in terms of psychic violence. All of the other alt fails cards are not about removing the choice. Only in the world of the alternative do we not force integration politics. Do we avoid the Lemaster like 15 and Lemaster card that comes below that, which means that we avoid this, but we also outweigh on strength of link back to the framework. Their answers to the alt are only in the context of healthcare, which means that you do not get access to them because they're not in the context of the other links. So we pause it. We've won the K, but now we'll go into case and win arguments on case. The Kaplan card was massively mishandled. A 4-year report proves that trickle-down economics are only creating more wealth inequality. They have not won that we've won that economic growth is a form of subaltern subjugation. They are conceding the warrants in Kaplan, which functions as an impact turn under their own framework. They just assert that we don't have warrants without answering the ones we have. Economic expansion is infinite. It goes on forever. They never quantify how much growth is needed, which means that people are always going to be at the expense of the state. Look, the voting issues go like this. We've won the links to the K. They at least have not answered all 4 of them, which we've outlined. We've won the alternative, and we've won an impact turn to case. So even if we're losing under their framework, we've still won that, which means you should vote next.
All right. All right. Case K. Case will be the advantage, and then the critique. The critique will have all of the pages, like the method and overview in it. I'll try to signpost as clearly as possible. I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay. Is everyone good? Okay, cool. The economy is slowing down because of macroeconomic crowd, 30% of federal spending, 70% of consumer spending, federal investment that secures resilience to dominance, also nuclear conflict, rogue actors like China, Russia, Iran, and Noku. The Kaplan evidence doesn't have an impact. We made an argument in the one area that we don't make a claim about solving inequality, it's just solving trade-offs, which only the 1AC does, which means even if we cause inequality, does it sort of matter, which means there's no impact to the impact, sort of impact to the impactor, and extend the McCaskill evidence that sort of extinction outweighs, even if we have a 0%, 0.001% sort of value to life, it's a question of trillions of future generations outweigh, which is sort of conceded their ontology. The critique just became super ontological in the tuner, which is not substantiated out of their evidence of sort of things like death and materiality. So obviously I should get sort of two-area responses. Their life is sort of material changes, i.e. ask yourself why sort of the critique sort of operates the questions like the role balance to disprove oppression, all those things. The state is not irredeemably sort of ontological. Second is the Claudio evidence, it was completely conceded in the 1AR, and sort of impact turns is sort of denies the fact that the state is sort of ontological, which means it denies all their sort of K-tricks, like sort of extinction has no value to life, and all those arguments. You've conceded that critiques of liberalism and critiques of the state are sort of don't account for historical transformations. There's no alternatives to resolving violence and poverty, which means that alt cannot solve. They say that alt solvency is good for discussion, but that leads to which for psychic violence. No, it leads to cruel optimism, which turns psychic violence because people engage in alternative think they can solve material solutions, then realize it doesn't. And it's just emancipatory language that doesn't resolve material actions. Anything else leads to unstable transition words, which sort of deck and cause impact turns alternative causes more violence, which means the state is redeemable and only state policy is resolved, which means only the permutation can resolve any piece of sort of a framing piece of the offense. The overview arguments, you say sort of people get sick turns impacts. We were at a hedge impact, not a healthcare coverage impact. You say desire to be alive. Obviously there's a value to life, which means the proximity weighing doesn't matter because it's a question you haven't implicated specifically on why China and Russia trade-offs. You just say they have a desire to sort of go to war, but not specifically in this case in the 1AC, which means specificity outlays. We've answered the no value climate claim. It's a bad argument, i.e. you don't have the consent for indigenous people to say they don't want to live in the first place, which is something that 2NR has never justified robustly any pieces of evidence. I'll answer the four links arguments right here. One, you could see the Weiss extension, the extinction images rupture the narrative stability and status quo structure of dominations rallying around the human survival opens with a space for radically different future. The answers the extinction link, the positioning of the USFG and the expansion of healthcare concede to the last argument, the one area that we are not integration politics, i.e. we don't force everyone to use healthcare. We just say that healthcare is free. You can decide whether or not to use it. That's a Lamasa evidence, which says that only we allow for traditional medicine or Western biomedicine. The Lamasa evidence indicates that sort of a binary yes or no before actually ruins indigenous sovereignty, doesn't let them access healthcare, but only sort of the AF allows for sort of a healthcare to be free so they can choose Western medicine or traditional medicine. We are not locked into binary, only the alternatives because it doesn't allow Western medicine, which is bad. Extend the permutation. You just said your answer was that we are not cycle, but it's literally your own author. Combine the analysis of the affirmative with subaltern theory. It gives us a fuller account of power relations in medicine, even if the alternative is not just about medicine, the links about medicine. We've sort of links are sort of infinitely smaller, which means the impact is small, which means extinction obviously sort of outweigh because there's a value to life that they haven't missed in, which means another Turns case or alt solves case argument. The count evidence is really good. It says sort of post-colonial theory and global and northern sarcos can talk about sort of Western medicine and traditional indigenous medicine and have power relations to resolve both of those, which means it resolves most of the 1AC offense. It's a clear AF ballot. Good debate.
Good debate.
Quran.
Yeah.
How do you spell this evidence name that is like Cluedo or Cluda, something that you're extending? How do I spell this?
Oh. Let me open up the app. Sorry. Claudio? Claudio. I think I pronounced it Claudio, so my bad. Claudio.
Yeah, I need to find it in the doc. How do I spell it?
CLAUDIO.
Okay, thank you.
All right, cool.
Rodrigo, can you turn off the stream?